Hello, and welcome to episode number 28 of Wrestle Erotica, the podcast that combines wrestling with erotica. In this episode, we decided to do something a little bit different, and we hope that it's something that you enjoy. In this episode, I conducted an interview with Vivi Lane. For those of you who don't know, Vivi Lane is, in her own words, a wrestling dominatrix. She is also one of the founders of the mixed wrestling website, Doom Maidens Wrestling. In this interview, we talk about mixed wrestling, Doom Maidens, bondage, and more. I apologize for the audio on my half of the recording. Please bear with us as this is our first interview, and we know that going forward, we will improve on the sound quality of our interviews. In case you haven't listened to our podcast before, every week we share a fan fiction story. This week's featured story is entitled Carmella's Humbling. In this story, Carmella is challenged by Alexa Bliss in a Bra and Panties match, where she is soon humiliated. Without further ado, let's get to the interview and the story.
So, just in general, how are you today?
Oh, I'm pretty good. We're getting a little bit of extra summer, even though it's September, so hey, that makes me happy.
I have not been outside today, so I have no idea what the weather is.
Beautiful.
I have a window in my office, but it's right by a tree, so it doesn't really give any light. It's been pretty good, though, in Indiana. I mean, it's been about in the 70s every day.
So we're still in the 80s, so that's perfect. That's so good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, I guess we'll just start with talking a little bit about yourself. And you have the questions, so you know the order they're going to come in, obviously.
If I can get that tab to also stay open on this computer at the same time.
If not a big deal. I can repeat them. It's all good. So, the first question, I guess, would be just, where are you originally from? You mentioned that you were from Indiana or lived here for a while, so just asking that basic question.
Oh, sure. Well, I grew up in southern Indiana, in total denial that we had anything in common with Kentucky whatsoever, although we certainly shared a river.
That's definitely the way to do it, though. Deny that influence.
It was sort of a thing. There was a bit of antipathy there.
It's that Hoosier pride. You have to be like, no, we're better.
Yeah. The IU-UK thing, that was big in my hometown, yeah. So I grew up, in a pretty small town, all my life, and it was very, very nice. Very good, wholesome American upbringing, but a little dull. So after I got out of college, I knew that I did not want to go back to, exactly the same small town where I grew up. And I happened to have a lot of college friends who were from New York City who swore to me that it was the best place in the entire world. So I was looking for somewhere to go. All the better to go somewhere that I knew people. So I just ended up in New York after school, and I've been there ever since, and that was a really, really good decision.
So you thought that it was the best place to go then, overall?
Well, like I said, I already had friends here, so it made it a good place to go. I was looking for somewhere more exciting than my little small hometown, and at the time, I actually thought I was going to take classes at FIT, which is something I tried and pretty soon rejected. But it was part of the impetus to get to New York.
Awesome. So how long have you been involved with wrestling?
Let's see. That started for me in 2006. And it was kind of funny because as a kid growing up, I was not that sporty. I was mostly the little nerdy bookworm girl. I did run cross country in high school, but that was really the extent of my athletic participation. And only after I moved to New York, I got invited to a party where people had put wrestling mats down in one corner, and I thought, that just looks like fun. Let me jump in and give that a try. And I happened to, meet people that were doing this recreationally, socially. I said, when's your next meetup? I want to be there. And by totally random and really fortunate chance, I met up with a group of wrestling people, got involved, and pretty much never looked back from there.
That sounds pretty amazing. I don't think you're going to find like a random party in Indiana where they just have wrestling mats set up. I don't think so anyways.
I'm a little surprised because, there was wrestling in Indiana. I mean, it was certainly in our schools and everything, but I don't know if it was a party activity. I guess you might be right there.
Of all the party activities, I don't think that's one of them I've seen. But unfortunately, I guess I just don't go to cool enough parties. But there's still time, I guess.
I guess I should clarify. It was actually a BDSM and fetish party. So this was one of the, I guess, like rough play activities that was at this particular fetish party. And I came in at that time actually thinking, oh, I've never been invited to a party like this before. I better really jump on this opportunity because, like you were saying, when will I ever get invited to something this cool again? And little did I know I would actually be getting pretty deeply involved from there. Yeah, that was my, awesome. I had to jump on that chance to like be really cool at that time. Yeah.
It was the cool thing at the time.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of like other wrestling, not mixed wrestling, like WWE or any of that?
It's kind of funny. I didn't ever really follow WWE, but kind of jumping ahead in the story, some of the video requests that I get through Doom Maidens are for pro style type of videos. So I'm very YouTube taught on pro wrestling. Since I don't have that, always used to watch or still watch or follow WWE. I did for a while follow UFC for a couple of years pretty closely, right around the time when I was first getting into wrestling myself. Like in that 2006, 7, 8 period, I was really keeping up with UFC, and I just no longer do since it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and there are more people and there are more fights, and there are fights multiple times a week instead of like every other month. So I've fallen out of really religious following, even with mixed martial arts, although I haven't been able to miss, of course, Ronda Rousey being the thing right now.
It's just like what she is doing is just unbelievable.
It's driving me just a little bit crazy that they keep giving her such mismatched opponents when there are so many other women's weight classes that they could be developing. There are plenty of good women, and if Ronda could just, sit out a few while her weight class builds up a little more talent, nobody's going to forget who she is because she's a phenom. Just wait until there's a good option for her to fight and not someone who's going to be like a little lamb to the sacrifice again.
Yeah, but I think that goes to just Dana White's philosophy, and he just wants to keep cashing those checks. I mean,
so many other women in other weight classes that could be getting developed and built up right now, and all Ronda has to do is just wait for a good fight.
Yeah, well, I guess it'll come around eventually, hopefully.
We're hoping.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's not like a Mayweather situation where it's just like every single opponent she fights, it's just a can, and you just know it's going to be a win. But we'll see, I guess. So, let's just talk about session wrestling in general. Like, how would you, I guess, to somebody who isn't familiar with what it is, how would you describe it?
One good way to make it make sense to people that have very little reference point is to kind of say I'm a wrestling dominatrix. Because though I get an awful lot of different types of sessions and matches, and skill levels from the guys that I see in sessions, so very many, are looking for a woman who can beat them, who can like physically dominate them, which is really the distinction between what I do and like classical pro doming, which can be very non-physical. It's very pristine, standoffish, and negotiates power in a way that's not just about can my body overcome your body. So it's a very direct, just a very, very direct form of domination in that sense. And it's fulfilling fantasies, but with, in my case, a very high degree of reality, because I like to make sure that when I offer a competitive session, for example, I have the skill, to actually deliver on that and still win competitively against most men who are seeking sessions. So that was a very, very long and roundabout way to say that my catchphrase for explaining this is wrestling pro dom.
I was kind of looking at your website.
And I was seeing that there's different terminology that you use. There's like competitive or ultra competitive or fantasy. I mean, I guess I just want a little bit more of an explanation for like what makes something competitive versus ultra competitive, that kind of thing. Or like what's a fantasy match?
Okay, sure. Well, I will say that term ultra competitive is one that just drives me nuts. And I always kind of shake my head at, yes, I did put that on my website just because so many people would write to me, kind of not believing that I offered competitive matches, because I am very small, really. I'm only 120 pounds. Can you really do competitive against a guy? And what does that mean? Does that mean that you can go hard, but I cannot? And I'm like, no, competitive really means competitive. When I say competitive, I really mean it. And so to try to drive that point home even further, no, I really mean competitive, I started using ultra competitive. It's not wildly different. It just means I'm not shitting you. I actually mean competitive. But I have also, because some people have asked for not just wrestling, but matches that can involve things kind of similar to MMA. Can we do striking or slapping or kicking? I'll kind of throw those in with ultra competitive too. Like, oh sure. Or maybe ultra competitive might refer to the matches that also allow some striking.
You're like, yeah, I'll punch you, not a big deal.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, that became a little bit of a catch-all actually. Oh yeah, it's all the tough, hard, rough ones. And competitive pretty much means the same thing. Whereas fantasy, actually can also mean a pretty wide range of things, but it usually has to do with how much resistance the guy wants to put up. Because some people are interested really only in that domination aspect. I mean, and they like the idea of wrestling, but they don't want to do the work. If they struggle too much, that's not as much fun. It kind of takes away from their experience of feeling the strong woman overcome them. They want to more just enjoy that than worry about how hard they have to fight. So I'm like, in a fantasy match, your resistance will be very low. And I, depending on really what we decide will be the most fun for like what this person is looking for, might be going very hard on you, or might be making a more gentle, just like the idea of wrestling sort of experience. And what I really pride myself on is being able to do all of those levels, very hard to, and very competitive to something that you're not looking to go home with bruises, if you're looking to just enjoy it, if you're looking for like an experience of the idea of wrestling, I don't have to go hard either. I can also keep it light and more fun and gentle.
Okay, so basically it's just whatever the client wants and how much experience they have, just for that, basically.
Right, for sure. And I mean, another level that people like to talk about is semi-competitive, which usually refers to, keeping just the action going, right? Sometimes there's a huge skill difference. If we did competitive, maybe I would submit you every 20 seconds and, there'd never be a flow. Semi-competitive is like keeping a good, fun roll up, making it fun for both parties. Fantasy can be, sometimes even fantasy might include like a role play. Not only is the wrestling going to be like tailored to how hard you want to go, but are we going to be like Batman and Catwoman? Are we going to be like boss and secretary? Or are we going to be Vivi and Joe, right? Just who happen to enjoy wrestling.
That makes sense.
Yeah, all kinds of options, levels, things, which is why it's so fun for me, because it's never the same.
Is there a most common type of like match or style that you do, or one that's the most fun for you to do?
Oh, geez. I can never really pick just one thing, because it does have so much to do, not just with the type of match, but with the other person in that match. The most fun for me is another person who is totally comfortable with what they like and with letting you know that they really like it. Somebody who just gets into it, doesn't bring any hang-ups because some people are very, very conflicted about enjoying mixed wrestling. And that you want to, walk them through it, be like, it's okay. But the most fun is when you don't have to do that, when you can get right into any kind of match really wholeheartedly and see that, yes, this is fun for both of us. I've had one particular guy leave a session and, it was a little scary because this was actually when I was doing a session in a hotel room, but I heard him walking down the hall leaving after the session going, woo! Woo! Yeah! And I'm like, thank God, no one from the hotel asked about that, but that was fun. I'm like, yes, that's somebody who is into what he likes, knows what he likes, and made it so much fun for me because he gave his all to that session too.
Yeah, that sounds like ideal, and that would be awesome. Like, if you're getting that kind of reaction, how can you not be having fun?
That's so neat. I had another particular person who we were actively wrestling for like an hour straight through, but the entire time he was going, oh my God, wow. So fun.
Amazing. So, I guess let's talk about just, I was going to say to Doom Maidens already, but actually I have one more question first. It's about general session wrestling. And, the question is, why do you think, like, I've looked at, various, websites like this, and there's always, like, huge rosters where there's all these females involved, but there's not really a lot of, like, male involvement. I was just wondering if you have any thoughts into that, why it's not so more prevalent.
Do you mean why men are not offering sessions?
Yeah, basically.
Well, I think because there's not as wide a demand for it, for a few reasons. I know that there actually are some men that do offer sessions, and a couple friends of mine do, but for a variety of reasons, because women don't buy sessions to the degree that men do. So there's not really a high demand for like heterosexual sessions where the man is providing the service. And then on the other side of that, I've heard that for like male meetups, quite a lot of that, is simply done for free. It's just like a meetup hookup site type of thing. It's not as often something that is monetized. But I have heard of a few professional male wrestlers, and I've heard even of a couple that will travel and will tour like the lady wrestlers do. But I think that really with a much smaller set of men offering the services, it's already meeting the demand pretty fully. Whereas with the women, I think there can be a lot of women offering this. And there's still demand for it, why there can be so many.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, so let's go and talk about Doom Maidens, which is, I guess, your baby, your website. I mean,
yes. Well, Doom Maidens is my company that I run with my webmaster. It didn't start out in quite that way. It started out back when I was very first getting into wrestling at all. There was an event in New York City that was amateur female Jello wrestling, which was a ridiculously fun like monthly thing where people brought this kiddie pool to bars, filled it up with Jello, and volunteer ladies could make up their own wacky costume and character, come in and do this like really cheesy but fun like pro style wrestling in Jello. And I met a couple ladies there that thought that was fun, but wanted to get more serious about wrestling in a way where we actually learned some techniques, could do it competitively, because the Jello wrestling was just all about the show. It wasn't about competitive at all. So we started to meet up and then think to practice. What else could we do with this? A few other people who were coming to our trainings were interested in doing things like action hero comic books and thought we could become a troupe of wrestling women doing nightclub performance, doing comic book appearances, doing comic convention appearances. We first started Doom Maidens for that. then got a tip that session wrestling existed. So some of the ladies were interested in doing that. Then ventured into trying to make a wrestling video, which turned out to be really productive. So this thing that began as we just all want to get together and wrestle, what do we do with it? Gravitated towards, well, videos actually are the things that work the best. So that's where Doom Maidens began. And the original people that founded it with me have since moved away from New York. They're not here, but different ladies have come in and out over the course of the growth process. I'm the only original founding member still left.
Awesome. I was going to say, what do you think distinguishes Doom Maidens specifically from similar sites?
Well, I think what Doom Maidens does and really tries to do, specifically, is be very open to all kinds of feedback and suggestions that we get from fans, and to really encourage that and to really reward that sometimes by taking sort of a departure from like maybe the videos that we're usually producing. We'll take a gamble on some idea that someone will send us, and that really follows like the history of how Doom Maidens grew. Because when we first started doing the wrestling videos, we thought that our particular brand, our thing, was going to be all real, competitive, always real, completely like hardcore wrestling all the time. None of that fantasy, none of that namby-pamby stuff. But when we were doing that, we found out that people actually would write in requests for, yes, but could you also do a fantasy thing? Because what I really want to see is this particular hold, or I really want to see this outfit, or I really want the one person to lose by 48 points, I don't want it to be, so, and then people also appreciate competitive. So we're like, okay, well, we can do competitive, but people are asking for this other thing too. Let's also do that. And we found out both things were popular. The thing that really is very particular to Doom Maidens is the bondage wrestling that I do. And that actually came from a session request that I had, from someone who wanted to have that style of session. We try to wrestle to tie each other up. I was like, that was really fun when I did the session. Let's just, take a gamble on making a video like that. And it was so remarkably popular, more than I even expected. So I think what really distinguishes us is that since we originally thought we were going to be all competitive all the time, we've thrown out that idea that we are going to be any one thing. We don't have the video that we have to make. We want to hear what people are looking for. And some really awesome additions to our style of videos we produce have come from fan suggestions.
I really enjoyed that aspect to it, that you're just like, we're not a thing. We're always going to evolve. And that's, I think, a good mindset to have in general.
Right. And I think that is what really is very helpful in distinguishing what we do from other companies, because there's an awful lot of all the same out there. And so we're willing to say, let's do something different, because this other thing is being produced by other people and it's being produced well. That's great. And if we dabble in that, fine. But I want you to go over here where this is not being done and maybe people are looking for it. So I think that's a way to keep it fun and interesting for us, and to let an awful lot of different people also play in the wrestling pool without all stepping on each other's toes all the time.
That kind of alludes to something I was going to ask a little bit later, but I'll just go ahead and ask it now. I was going to say, do you find that there's a lot of competition between the various sites who are offering similar things like this? Or is there kind of the mentality that everybody can do this, there's enough room for everybody to do their own thing?
I think really, and fortunately, wonderfully, it is more of the latter, where there is room for people to all do their own thing. And in some cases to do a little bit of overlap, because people inspire each other, and people, I've had the experience, invite different models and wrestlers that they see doing their thing over to their site. Maybe can you do your thing for us for like one video? Or if we happen to do these two things that are similar, well, that's okay because your thing maybe I'm being vague here. For example, we just worked with Mistress Cara at Doom Maidens recently this past summer. And her thing that she's so good at is this sort of mixed wrestling domination. She's amazing at putting boys in their place. And she might do that all over the place, for other sites. But if we have her work with us here at Doom Maidens, she can do that to, say, our particular male victim. So it's fine. It's great. She might do it over here and she destroys Steve. And if she does it over here, she destroys, we had her work specifically with Howell, who's one of our male talents. And it's great. There's so much room for this. Come do your thing for us. We know you did it there, but you're going to do it here with this one little variation. And it's really neat. People trade back and forth. I saw you work with so-and-so from here. I like what you did. Can you come do that with us? Or, hey, I want to hire you for my site. It will be completely different because my site does beatdowns, whereas your site does, bondage wrestling. That'll be different. It'll be great. People really find great ways to work together. And I think the only thing that can stand in the way of that is not content, but just attitude. Like 90% or even 98% of the people that I meet in the industry do love that collaborative type of thing. And only somebody who's going to choose to like seal themselves off and want to be like, like an island unto themselves, is going to have that happen. Otherwise people, just by having such a good cooperative attitude, can really do a ton in this industry. And more so by working together.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of leads to, like, what I was going to ask in general is, like, how do you find the talent that you work with? And I imagine a lot of it is just people are on one thing and they kind of vouch for somebody else and then you bring them over to do their thing with you guys. Mm-hmm. Is there a lot of that?
It's an interesting thing. We have a kind of different process for how we end up working with women than how we end up working with men. Because there are so many, I guess like I was saying before regarding session wrestlers, there are so many professional women out there doing wrestling and fetish modeling, and general modeling that with ladies, it's really easy to go and look at who is going to be visiting New York, what sort of guest talent is coming through. Or I recently got back from FetCon, what models are all going to be at this one major event, gathering tons of models together. Here are their pictures. Here are their contacts. Here is their reference sheet with who they worked with before. Who do you want to work with? Send an email, or even better, Twitter is just kind of the exchange for wrestling and fetish work right now. Just tweet at someone, hey, coming to my city, want to shoot? And so many people are amazing and talented and easy to find that way. Whereas there are so many fewer men who are really professionally doing this that often relies on recommendation. I have some friends. The friends have friends. Would your friend want to try doing this? Bring him in. We'll talk about it. So it's interesting. Ladies are everywhere. Guys are a very word of mouth type of thing. I guess especially for Doom Maidens, because though sometimes guys do volunteer out of that, hey, I would do a video for a discount on a session or for a free session. We will always find that really when you just treat the guys equally as professionally as the women, get a better video in the end. So we're always looking for people that do want to approach it professionally, but they're not out there like having their modeling profile like the women are. So it's very word of mouth.
Awesome. I mean, I guess you don't have a typical video, but I was going to say, what goes into, say, I guess, in quotes, a typical video production? Like, how long does producing one take, or is it just super dependent on how long they book, that kind of thing?
Well, let's see. It depends. There are two ways that we produce videos. One is if customer or fan sends in a custom request. This is the script I want. These are the specifications. We go back and forth on email, working out, exactly what they want in the video, who they want to be in it, what the cost will be to produce it. And that can go really any amount of time, from somebody who knows exactly what they want, sends you the entire script, says how much, you say this amount plus $20 to buy those shoes, and you call up the other wrestler, you say, when are you free? You do the whole thing by the end of the week, and that's great. I also had one particular guy who really wanted a video, but really was on quite a tight budget. He did a whole payment plan for a year before we were able to buy this particular superhero costume that was just essential to his video. And so that video it took an entire year to make happen, but we did it in the end. Whereas also, Doom Maidens will sometimes say, this is the idea we want to do, not based off a custom script at all. And that, again, that's pretty simple. This is what we want to do. Call people up. What time are you free? Okay, we'll shoot Tuesday. And I'm especially really lucky because my videographer and webmaster is just a fiend for productivity. The video will be ready the next day, or even that night, depending on what time we shoot, edited and, ready to then proceed on with the whole uploading it and marketing it and emailing people and letting people know that we have the video, but actually making it takes a day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be the final question, and it's I think it should be a fun one. I'm just going to say, do you have any funny stories of things that might have gone wrong, or just a shooting where something like funny happened, basically?
Well,
I'm sure there's plenty. I mean, because you said it's a lot of fun, so.
Yeah, definitely. And actually there is, there's a sort of idea that we've been having to make an outtakes YouTube. Cause sometimes there are just things where like the gag goes on completely crooked. I actually this was terrifying, but when you look back on it and know that it was fine, it's really funny. I got dropped on my head, in this one particular shoot, and you hear like the gasp from behind the camera, and then you see me pop up and go, I'm fine. But probably the funniest thing that ever happened was not actually captured on video, so would not make it onto the Outtakes channel. But it was when I was shooting one of the bondage wrestling videos with Indra, who is a really fun, sassy, just irrepressible little character, at this particular studio that was a shared use studio. So we'd rented a room, and unfortunately the shoot was running right up to the wire of our room booking. And the next group was knocking on the door trying to come in. And the next group happened to be a judo club that had rented the same wrestling room. So there's this very proper, very traditional martial arts judo club knocking on the door, and we're doing this wrestling in bikinis with ropes flying everywhere, and they're trying to get in. And I admit I would never have been able to do this myself, but Indra is just, a force to be reckoned with. Marches right up to the judo club and says, come in, we're doing bondage wrestling. It's lovely. You should try it. Come on in. Do you want to try? And I guess I didn't say that Indra has this posh British accent that I murder when I try to do it. But yeah, if you can imagine this little tiny powerhouse, but glamorous little thing, but still covered in like rope marks, marching up to the judo guys and going, do you want to try? It's loads of fun. That was probably our funniest moment.
That's awesome. I bet they did not know how to react at all.
I think it bought us another 10 minutes to finish the shoot because they backed off a little.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, he pulled that one out.
I think that's all the questions that I have. Is there anything that, where can people find you online?
Oh, well, absolutely. I am all over the internet. Doommaidens.com, of course, is the main site. I also have vvlane.com, which is my personal little bulletin board site. And I'm probably most active actually participating anywhere on Twitter. So vvlane on Twitter.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us and being our first guest.
All right. Well, thank you for having me very much.
Yep. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
This story is entitled Carmella's Humbling, and it was written by Carnescranes of new WWE Divas.forumcommunity.net. The Full Sail Arena cheered as the self-proclaimed Princess of Staten Island, Carmella, sauntered down to the ring.
Fabulous.
Dressed in denim shorts and sleeveless, soft half shirt. Enzo and Maury and Colin Cassidy were nowhere to be seen. However, there were to be no catchphrases and sing-alongs tonight. Carmella had a problem she was determined to solve alone. The problem was 5 foot 1 inches of conniving, scheming bitch named Alexa Bliss, who had screwed Enzo and Big Cass out of the NXT tag team titles a few months earlier, and had continued to mock Carmella and wiggle out of every attempt she made to get even ever since. But Carmella knew just how she was going to get even. Alexa had reluctantly agreed to face her one-on-one. Carmella knew she could take down that scrawny little runt without breaking a sweat, but she had one more trick up her sleeve to make the humiliation absolute. Next came Alyssa, strutting cockily down the aisle with a wicked smirk on her face. Dressed in the skimpy, red ring gear she had taken to wearing since embracing her dark side. The evil, manipulative, and often downright slutty side Carmella always knew was lurking behind her sweet and innocent exterior. Alexa smiled and waved sarcastically at her rival as she bent slowly through the ropes, much to the delight of the men in the audience. And the disgust of Carmella. Little did Alexa know she'd soon be showing them much more than she'd bargained for. Well, you showed up. That's already more than I expected. Carmella snarled, snatching the microphone from the ring announcer. Not often you hop off Blake and Murphy's dicks long enough to get any wrestling done these days. Damn! The crowd cheered in astonishment at this very un-PG remark, while Alexa just raised her eyebrows in disappointment. Very mature, Carmella. Seems like someone's bitter that Enzo and Cass would rather take a random ring rat home after the show rather than you. She fired back. So, you're not even gonna try and deny how much of a slut you've become? Maybe I'll be doing you a favor, ripping your clothes off in front of everyone. Carmella scoffed. What are you talking about? Alexa sneered with a roll of her eyes. Tonight isn't just any ordinary match. Beating you up isn't enough anymore. I've got to wipe that smug little grin off your face. I've got to take away your dignity. It's time we get old school, bitch. This right here is a Bra and Panties match. Carmella announced to the surprise and approval of the NXT universe. Bring it on! I'm a fitness model. I'm used to standing in front of a room of people in a thong and a tiny bra. Not that there's any danger of that happening tonight. I'm sure you've been there too. Although with you, there was a pulling dollar bills involved, right? Alexa taunted. Oh! Very good. Before we get this started though, how do I know Blake and Murphy aren't gonna jump out any second? Carmella asked. Alexa chuckled knowingly, much to the New Yorker's annoyance. The same reason I know that Enzo and Cass aren't gonna get involved, she replied plainly. And what's that? Carmella spat. All of a sudden, Her voice came in the form of a voice emanating from the entranceway as Blake and Murphy appeared on the big screen. "Because we're right here," Blake announced, and Murphy stood by the door to the locker room. "And they're right here," Murphy added as the camera panned across the show, Enzo and Cass bloody and unconscious on the floor. Carmella was so livid and distracted by the image on the screen that she didn't notice Alexa creeping up behind her. She suddenly felt a chill at her waist as her shorts were yanked clean down to her ankles. Carmella's hand, perfectly rounded behind, concealed only by the tiniest leopard print thong, was now exposed to the 1,000+ in attendance. In her desperation to escape, Carmella forgot her shorts, her still wrapped around her legs, and tripped as she turned to run. Alexa pounced, dropping elbows repeatedly to her foe's back, with every attempt Carmella made to escape being thwarted by the denim around her legs. Her attempts to wiggle free of the shorts only gave Alexa more chance to attack, and caused her thick ass to jiggle wildly. With Carmella beaten and helpless, Alexa ferociously ripped the shirt from her opponent's back, making sure the bra went with it. The match was over. Carmella's bare, ample breast, dark reddish-brown nipples and all were loose. As Carmella hunched over on her front, trying to maintain some modesty, Alexa climbed the top rope and hit her sparkle splash. Carmella no longer had the energy to fight. This was going to be fun. Who wants to see a little more of Carmella? Half of Staten Island's already seen her naked. Only fair you should too. Alexa crowed into the microphone before yanking Carmella's thong so hard it split clean off. Carmella was now sobbing in the fetal position. Knowing much of the audience had a clear view of her backside, maybe even her tight brown hole, but also that it was the best case scenario in her current predicament. Then she felt two enormous arms lift her upright, giving the crowd a full tutorial of her for the first time. Before she knew what was happening, Blake and Murphy had handcuffed her in the corner, and Alexa was stood over with the biggest grin in all of Florida. "Now I know you've been in this situation before," Alexa said with a girlish laugh. "So, now you've seen us both in the all together. Boys, which do you prefer? This common Staten Island skank with their tan lines and her hairy snatch? Oh yeah! Or this refined, natural beauty right here?" She went on, stripping down to her own dark red lingerie, as Blake and Murphy eagerly applauded. "There's no contest, Bliss. None whatsoever," Murphy enthused. "I agree. Maybe Carmella would look better with my perfect little ass in her face. What do you think of that?" Alexa asked as her boys nodded in approval, along with much of the crowd. Yay! "Now, if you don't want this, honey, all you have to do is walk away." Alexa crowed, laughingly heartily away as Carmella struggled in vain against the restraints on her wrist. "You're sticking around? Don't blame you. I mean, who doesn't want some of this?" the Ohio native asked arrogantly, wiggling her peachy white ass at the camera. "Prepare to taste greatness." Carmella was helpless as Alexa lowered the back of her underwear, and her tight, firm rear end drew ever closer to her face. She could say almost for a fact that one or both of Blake and Murphy's dicks had been in there, maybe even this very night, and now it would quite literally be rubbed in her face. Soon her nose was pressed right up against Alexa's pinkish-brown back entrance. She opened her mouth to scream and found her tongue tasting the raw, exotic sensation of the younger woman's passage. She wished it tasted worse than it actually did. The fact she actually quite liked the taste made her even more embarrassed. She could never live this down. Ever. "How does it taste, Carmella?" How does it feel to know I've won our little war? How does it feel to know the whole world has seen everything there is to see of you? I'll tell you how it feels to me. In one word, bliss. The end. Thank you for listening to episode number 28 of Wrestle Erotica. Oh my god, guys. How amazing was BB Lane? Seriously, that interview was fantastic. We hope that you enjoyed that interview as well as the featured story this week. If you enjoyed the interview and the story, please be sure to like and review us on iTunes, as well as check us out elsewhere. We are on Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, and of course, our official website, WrestleEroticaPod.com. Thank you and have a good week.